Okay, so I'd like you to start 9-7, which is completing the square. I'm sorry I'm not going to be there today to help you, but hopefully this video will let you at least understand a piece of this process. And then on Monday, we will definitely practice it some more and I'll go over it. And then we'll get into some more interesting and more complicated questions. So again, this is 9-7 and we will be completing the square, which is something brand new. Before that, let's review. I have an x plus 3 squared and an x minus 1 squared. If we were to FOIL it, we would get x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. Our ending trinomial would be x squared plus 6x plus 9. In our second example, x minus 4 times x minus 4. F gets us x squared. O gets us negative 4x. I gets us negative 4x. And L, negative 4 times negative 4, positive 16. Ending trinomial is x squared minus 8x plus 16. Okay, hopefully you remember this and that's not complicated or confusing anymore since we've been doing it so much. Now let's go the other direction. Let's start with the trinomial and factor it. So what two numbers multiply to 25 and add up to 10? Okay, that's a 5 and a 5. So we get x plus 5 times x plus 5. Or, remember, we could also write it as x plus 5 squared. This one, what multiplies to 36 and adds up to a negative 12, that would be a negative 6 and a negative 6. X minus 6 times x minus 6, which again we could write it x minus 6 squared. So, to review, binomial squared ending with a trinomial. And now we have trinomials, and then we factored them back down to binomials. Now, this is example 1. Please start your notes now. So title it 9-7, completing the square, and this is example 1A. This would be A. All right, all we have is x squared plus 6x, and we're told to complete the square. So I drew a nice little yellow square for us to fill in. We need to make a trinomial that looks like one of those. We need to turn this into a trinomial where this third term is factored, that could then be factored into a binomial. Here's how we do it. The easiest way is to take this b, divide it by 2, and square it. So you take your b, you divide it by 2, and then you square it. Order of operation says we have to do what's on the inside first. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. And now we square it. 3 squared is 9. X squared plus 6x plus 9 would be completing the square. And if we were to factor it, okay, think to yourself, what numbers multiply to 9 but add up to 6? That's 3 and 3, right? X plus 3, x plus 3. This 3, it's right there. That's where it comes from. So this is all related. And sometimes when you're given an equation or an expression like x squared plus 6x, it would be so much easier to factor if you had that third number. And if that third number was very specifically chosen so that you could factor it into those binomials. Let's try it again. X squared minus 9x plus something. We get to choose it. Let's take the negative 9. Notice I copied this negative here. Let's divide it by 2. And let's square it. Now when you square a fraction, since negative 9 divided by 2, it doesn't simplify, it would simplify to a mixed number, but that would be harder to square. So let's just write it twice so it's easier to see. Negative 9 times negative 9 is 81, and 2 times 2 is 4. This completing the square is 81/4, and that would be completing the square. That would be the answer. So for example 1, you want the number in the box. You don't want the binomials yet. I jumped a little bit. You want the number in the box, and that is example 1. Okay? So it's okay that it's a fraction 81/4. That's okay. Okay, example 2 is where completing the square gets really, really cool. We combine so many different things now. You're going to like it. It might be confusing, and that's okay. We'll take it one step at a time, and I promise we'll go over it again on Monday. Okay, I see my left side as x squared plus 14x. I'm told to solve by completing the square. That's what the directions say. This equals 15. It's important, but this is where I'm going to focus initially. I'm going to take this b, just like before. I'm going to take it, I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to square it. 14 divided by 2 is 7 squared. 7 squared is 49. Now, let me go back to blue. X squared plus 14x plus 49 equals 15. Now, what we've been saying for a long, long time now, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So we add 49 to both sides. Okay, so we've got 49 on both sides of the equation. Now let's take a look at the left side again. X squared plus 14x plus 49. That is an x plus 7 squared. Okay, 7 times 7 gets you the 49, and 7 plus 7 gets you the 14. It is a perfect square trinomial, which is why it will work. This number 7, again, it comes from right here. It will always be that number before you square it. Okay, x plus 7 squared equals, now let's go ahead and combine this. 15 plus 49 gives us 64. Here's where it gets really cool. Okay, we've got this binomial squared on one side, and we've got 64 on the other. 64 is a perfect square. So let's square root both sides. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So now let's square root them. And the square root of an x plus 7 squared, right, square rooting a square, those are inverses, they cancel out, and we get x plus 7 on the left-hand side. The square root of 64, this goes back to 9 6, is plus or minus 8. Now, we've got to set up two different equations. X plus 7 equals 8, or x plus 7 equals negative 8. We have two answers. It's a quadratic equation. It has two answers. So x plus 7 equals 8, which means x equals 1, or x plus 7 equals negative 8. Subtract your 7, and you get x equals negative 15. And those are the answers that you get when you complete the square. Okay, hopefully that sort of kind of maybe made a little bit of sense. We're going to do one more example. X squared minus 16x equals negative 15. Start here again. Negative 16 divided by 2. Square it. Negative 16 divided by 2 is a negative 8. Square the negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 8, positive 64. Okay, now I need to add that 64 to both sides. X squared minus 16x plus 64 equals negative 15 plus 64. Okay, let's factor it. X squared minus 16x plus 64. 64 is an 8 times 8. Negative 16x is a negative 8 times 2 times your x. So that is a perfect square trinomial. X minus 8 squared equals negative 15 plus 64. You do the subtraction, right? The signs are different, so you find the, freaked out on me. Find the difference. You get 49. Now again, we've got a binomial squared equaling 49, which we know is a perfect square. Let's square root them. The square root of an x minus 8 squared, those are inverses. They cancel out. You get x minus 8 equals the square root of 49 plus or minus 7. We're not done yet. We have to separate it into two different equations. X minus 8 equals 7. X minus 8 equals negative 7. X minus 8, let's add 8. That means x is 15. Or it could also be, let's add 8. X equals 1. Notice that in both examples, the answer isn't plus or minus 1 or plus or minus 2. You have to set it up twice, and your answers will be different. Your integers will not be opposites. 15 and 1, 1 and negative 15. Okay, those happen to be opposites. Oh gosh. But in general, okay, they're not going to be flip-flopped like that all the time. Okay, here's the steps. Please make sure you have this clearly written in your notes. Step 1, it needs to be in the form x squared plus bx equals c. It is not x squared plus bx plus c equals y. Okay, it is not that. Not for completing the square. Then you take your b, you divide it by 2, and then you square it. When you complete the square, you have to add that number to both sides. Then you need to factor it, and it will always be this b divided by 2 answer. Here, negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 8. There's your negative 8. And here it was 7. Okay, there's your 7. That factor in that binomial, that number will always be, b divided by 2. Step 3, complete the square, so you add it to both sides. Factor it. It's always going to be that b divided by 2. Step 5, I guess it's 5/6. You take the square root and solve both of them. There will be 2 of them for you to do. Okay, there's your intro to completing the square. We're not done yet, but I would like you to try. Please do check it out. 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2A. That's 4 questions. On Monday, I will check your notes from this video, and I will check the 4 answers to the check it outs. 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2A. There's no Google form. I know you're doing this in class. Good luck. I hope it goes well, and I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.